in the corporate identity era, we were very focused on what is the unique identity of this company? How do we express what makes this company, tick in a visual and verbal fashion, primarily visual in those days. And so it was very insular and very focused on like what makes the company stand out. I think when we went to the branding era and we shifted from talking about corporate identity, start talking branding, it became much more customer driven. It's much more about what will the customer want? What will they buy into? What is it that's going to make us stand out from others, relative to that customer? But I think the challenge that we found, and we've certainly seen this in the last 10, 15 years, is that when we use that branding frame, we've narrowed everything so much. There is this globalized homogeneity that's happened, and so everybody looks the same. The logos look the same, the names sound the same, the typefaces look the same, the voice sound and tone is the same. We have seen this massive genericization of the economy, if you like, under the guise of branding. And I think that if we were to step back, it might be useful for us to remind ourselves of some of those tenets of identity. Not because I think there's a fundamental difference between branding and corporate identity, but I think that when we use that frame of corporate identity, it helps us to get back to this idea that we're trying to express what makes the company unique and special and what makes it tick, and a visual reflection of its DNA, which I think will help us get away from this kind of this narrowing aperture of taste that we've seen.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because you see, I guess as branding has become more mainstream, as in the craft of branding has become more mainstream, and people are watching, when big companies rebrand, there's critiques online, and you're seeing
Yep.
TikTok videos, and
Yep.
whereas roll back a while and no one really cared, the company had to spend money
Yep.
to actually tell everyone that they changed their branding. No one
Yep.
actually noticed, and there was a subsect of people like you and me that were having these discussions about this, but now it's sort of bubbled up into the mainstream, and you see a lot of that thinking also moving into personal branding, and that the
Yep.
leaders of the company also need to be a brand and have a brand. and
Yep.
and I find this quite interesting because when people pursue personal branding more than company branding, they try and create something that's almost not there. There's this smoke and mirrors that's sort of being thrown up, and I find companies that build really good brands and then deliver very poor service, or if you see someone in a sort of social media setting and then you encounter them in real life and there's a big difference, the fall is quite real. And I think if people tap into that identity piece, what's special, what makes me unique, the opportunity for that to happen is diminished somewhat.